A large draw to the Arctic is of course the iconic polar bear. These massive Arctic animals have been made even more famous by their declining numbers due to late forming and early melting sea ice, which drastically limits their hunting abilities. As the largest living carnivores on Earth at up to 8 feet long and 1,500 pounds, polar bears need a lot of caloric intake. Their main strategic advantage is to wait by seal-breathing holes in the ice to snatch them up for a fat-filled meal using their highly sensitive sense of smell to locate them under 3 feet of water. Polar bears also scavenge for carcasses of other mammals, birds and eggs and can smell their prey on land up to 10 miles away. These marine mammals are also excellent swimmers with webbed paws, swimming up to 6 miles per hour and for long distances between ice floes. 26,000 wild polar bears are currently estimated to be roaming the Arctic and are found in the northern areas of Canada, Alaska, Greenland, Russia and Norway.
Long ago, all the continents were crammed together into one large land mass called Pangaea. Pangaea broke apart about 200 million years ago, its pieces drifting away on the tectonic plates, but not permanently. Scientists aren't exactly sure what the next supercontinent will look like or where it will be located. One possibility is that, 200 million years from now, all the continents except Antarctica could join together around the North Pole, forming the supercontinent of Asia. Another possibility is that Orca could form from all the continents coming together around the equator in about 250 million years.
Soil is a natural resource that may look robust and endless, but is in fact the fragile product of thousands of years of formation. Topsoil, which lies closest to the surface of the land, contains essential nutrients for crops. It is this layer of soil that is endangered by wind and water erosion. Soil erosion decreases soil fertility, which can negatively affect crop yields. It also sends oil, lard and water downstream, which can create heavy layers of sediment that prevent streams and rivers from flowing smoothly and can eventually lead to flooding. Once soil erosion occurs, it is more likely to happen again. This is a global problem. Soil is eroding more quickly than it is being formed, causing land to become unsuitable for agriculture, a particularly serious concern in a world where the population is expected to top 9 billion by mid-century. Smarter land management is a necessity.
It is estimated that by 2050, the mean daily temperature could touch 47 degrees Celsius and the nights would remain above 30 degrees Celsius in some parts of the Middle East. The consequences would be dire for the Arabian Gulf region, and it will likely become severely unlivable unless radical measures to mitigate the climate change impacts are adopted. The wet bulb temperature, which measures temperature and humidity of a location, is expected to exceed 35 degrees Celsius, and that does not bode well for the Emirates. Further, the globally rising sea levels owing to melting glaciers and ice sheets have put about 24 port cities of the region under the threat of being engulfed by the increasing water level. As a result, the urban coastal areas would face more episodes of flooding, and the saltwater intrusion in places such as in Nile Delta would severely impact the crop yield. It is expected that with drier weather and less rainfall, the region will experience an increased number of sandstorms which will further deteriorate the air quality in the surrounding areas. Coupled with the already existing political tension in the geography, the fight against climate change would be a Herculean task for its population, and if not handled prudently, it may even exacerbate the conflict.
Worker-bees are the most familiar-looking member of the honeybee hive, as they make up about 99% of each colony's population. Worker-bees are all female, and they do almost everything for the hive. From birth to her death 45 days later, the worker bee is given different tasks to do during different stages of her life. Worker bees are responsible for everything from feeding the larvae, the baby bees, to tending to the queen, to cleaning the hive, to collecting food, to guarding the colony, to building honeycomb. The stinger of the worker bee is barbed, so when she is forced to defend herself or the hive, her stinger will become stuck in the skin of her victim. She is unable to pull it out, and dies when she inevitably tears herself away from the stuck stinger, leaving it behind with the venom sac still pumping venom into her victim.
A conventional oral or rectal thermometer consists of a sealed glass tube containing a liquid such as mercury. Imprinted on the tube is a temperature scale. When the temperature rises or falls, the mercury expands or contracts, causing it to move up or down the scale inside a tiny passageway. A narrow point along the passageway allows the mercury to move up a scale, but prevents it from moving down until the thermometer is shaken down after yaws. The thermometer must maintain contact with the body for about 4 minutes to yield an accurate reading. A rectal reading is usually slightly more accurate than an oral reading. Thermometers are also available with digital displays that facilitate easy reading of the temperature, beepers to signal when it is time to withdraw the thermometer, and flexible tubes to resist breakage. Or more precisely, eardrum thermometers measure temperature by reading infrared radiation emanating from eardrum tissue.
The mind is highly complex, and conditions that relate to it can be hard to treat. Thought processes, emotions, memories, dreams, perceptions, and so on cannot be seen physically, like a skin rash or heart defect. While physical signs of some mental health issues can be observed, such as the plaques that develop with Alzheimer's disease, many theories of psychology are based on observation of human behavior. A psychologist will meet with patients, carry out assessments to find out what their concerns are and what is causing any difficulties, and recommend or provide treatment, for example, through counseling and psychotherapy. Psychologists may have other roles, too. They may carry out studies to advise health authorities and other bodies on social and other strategies, assess children who find it difficult to learn in school, give workshops on how to prevent bullying, work with recruitment teams in companies, and much more.
There are three types of anesthesia. Local anesthesia numbs a small part of the body. It might be used on a tooth that needs to be pulled or on a small area around a wound that needs stitches. You are awake and alert during local anesthesia. Regional anesthesia is used for larger areas of the body such as an arm, a leg, or everything below the waist. You may be awake during the procedure, or you may be given sedation. Regional anesthesia may be used during childbirth, a cesarean section, C-section, or minor surgeries. General anesthesia affects the whole body. It makes you unconscious and unable to move. It is used during major surgeries, such as heart surgery, brain surgery, back surgery, and organ transplants.
Enzymes act as catalysts in biochemical reactions, meaning that they speed the reactions up. Each enzyme recognizes one or more substrates, the molecules that serve as starting material for the reaction it catalyzes. Different enzymes participate in different types of reactions and may break down, link up, or rearrange their substrates. One example of an enzyme found in your body is salivary amylase, which breaks amylose, a kind of starch, down into smaller sugars. The amylose doesn't taste very sweet, but the smaller sugars do. This is why starchy foods often taste sweeter if you chew them for longer. You're giving salivary amylase time to get to work.
The Nile River is considered to be the longest river in the world. Lake Victoria is considered to be the source of the river. It flows through the Egypt, Uganda, Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Eritrea, Burundi, Sudan, and South Sudan. The Blue and the White Nile are the two tributaries of the river. Although for most of us, the Nile River is longest river in world, there is a section of scholars who regard the Amazon River as the true winner of this title. Large rivers like the Nile and Amazon have numerous sources and many large and small tributaries. The need to find the furthest source of a river is there if the true length of the river has to be calculated. Often, such sources are located in remote and inaccessible locations, rendering the discovery of such sources an arduous task.
Many people hear the word economics and think it is all about money. Economics is not just about money. It is about weighing different choices or alternatives. Some of those important choices involve money, but most do not. Most of your daily, monthly, or life choices have nothing to do with money, yet they are still the subject of economics. For example, your decisions about whether it should be you or your roommate who should be the one to clean up or do the dishes, whether you should spend an hour a week volunteering for a worthy charity or send them a little money via your cell phone, or whether you should take a job so you can help support your siblings or parents or save for your future are all economic decisions. In many cases, money is merely a helpful tool or just a veil, standing in for a partial way to evaluate some of the goals you really care about and how you make choices about those goals.
All living organisms are made up of one or more cells. Unicellular organisms, like amoebas, consist of only a single cell. Multicellular organisms, like people, are made up of many cells. Cells are considered the fundamental units of life. The cells in complex multicellular organisms like people are organized into tissues, groups of similar cells that work together on a specific task. Organs are structures made up of two or more tissues organized to carry out a particular function, and groups of organs with related functions make up the different organ systems. At each level of organization, cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems, structure is closely related to function. For instance, the cells in the small intestine that absorb nutrients look very different from the muscle cells needed for body movement. The structure of the heart reflects its job of pumping blood throughout the body, while the structure of the lungs maximizes the efficiency with which they can take up oxygen and release carbon dioxide.
Fat is a type of nutrient, and just like protein and carbohydrates, your body needs some fat for energy, to absorb vitamins, and to protect your heart and brain health. For years we've been told that eating fat will add inches to your waistline, raise cholesterol, and cause a myriad of health problems. But now we know that not all fat is the same. Bad fats, such as artificial trans fats and saturated fats, are guilty of the unhealthy things all fats have been blamed for: weight gain, clogged arteries, an increased risk of certain diseases, and so forth. But good fats such as unsaturated fats and omega-3 fatty acids have the opposite effect. In fact, healthy fats play a huge role in helping you manage your moods, stay on top of your mental game, fight fatigue, and even control your weight. By understanding the difference between good and bad fats and how to include more healthy fat in your diet, you can improve how well you think and feel, boost your energy, and even trim your waistline.
Jellyfish don't have brains, hearts, or eyes, and they've been around for over 500 million years of history. The box jellyfish is thought to be the most venomous marine animal in the world. It has a cube-shaped body and is typically found in waters around Australia and the Indo-Pacific. Its tentacles are covered in poison-filled darts. Only a few types of box jellyfish have venom that's lethal for humans, but a person who gets stung by one of these jellies can go into cardiac arrest or die within minutes. About 5% of jellyfish bodies are made of structural proteins, muscles, and nerve cells, while the remaining 95% is water.
The term genetic modified organisms, GMO, has become a controversial topic as its benefits for both food producers and consumers accompanied by potential biomedical risks and environmental side effects. Increasing concerns from the public about GMO, particularly in the form of genetic modified, GM, foods, are aimed at the short and long-lasting health problems that may result from this advanced biotechnology. Complex studies are being carried out around the world independently to evaluate the advantages and disadvantages of GM foods.
Gravitational forces between molecules are comparatively small relative to intermolecular or interatomic forces. Since phase change is controlled by intermolecular forces, the rate of melting or freezing should be the same under microgravity as it is under normal gravity conditions, provided that thermal and salutal fields are the same. However, phase change happens to be indirectly influenced by gravity due to convection in the liquid phase, which propagates nuclei and enhances heat transfer, also changing the thermal contact conductance between the heated, or cooled, wall and the phase change material.
The universe is full of matter, and matter attracts other matter through gravity. Astronomers reasoned that the mutual attraction among all that matter must be slowing down the expansion of the universe. But they didn't know what the ultimate outcome would be. Would the gravitational effect be so forceful that the universe would ultimately stretch a certain distance, stop and reverse itself, like a ball tossed into the air? Or would it be so slight that the universe would escape its grasp and never stop expanding, like a rocket leaving Earth's atmosphere? Or did we live in an exquisitely balanced universe, in which gravity ensures a Goldilocks rate of expansion neither too fast nor too slow, so the universe would eventually come to a virtual standstill?
Industrial pollution comes in a variety of forms. There are many federal regulations regarding types and amounts of pollutants that can be emitted from industries, though in some countries, companies who are over their limit can buy pollution credit from companies who are under the targeted amount. Heat pollution is commonly caused by industries, but many regions have passed legislation requiring that power plants and industries cool water before they release it. Construction, mining and logging operations can cause great amounts of sediment to pollute lakes and streams. While agricultural practices are responsible for the most sediment pollution, construction and mining can lose up to 70 tons of sediment per acre per year, which is 15 times higher than the normal cropland rate.
About 8 million indigenous people in India are in danger of being evicted from forests that their ancestors have lived in for millennia. This grave injustice follows a shocking Supreme Court ruling that rides roughshod over the rights of India's indigenous people, known as Adivasi, or tribals. According to the 2011 census, these tribal people number 104 million, almost 9% of the country's then 1.2 billion population. It is the largest indigenous population in any country in the world, occupying 22% of India's geographical terrain. A number of Indian wildlife and conservation organizations, including Wildlife First, the Wildlife Trust of India, and the Tiger Research and Conservation Trust have accused the tribal people of destroying the forest's biodiversity and have petitioned the court to clear them from the land. Yet the 2006 Forest Rights Act gave Adivasi rights to live on and protect the land that they had been cultivating within forest boundaries.
King cobras live mainly in the rainforests and plains of India, southern China, and Southeast Asia, and their coloring can vary greatly from region to region. They are comfortable in a variety of habitats, including forests, bamboo thickets, mangrove swamps, high-altitude grasslands, and in rivers. This species feeds mainly on other snakes, venomous and non-venomous. They will also eat lizards, eggs, and small mammals. They are the only snakes in the world that build nests for their eggs, which they guard ferociously until the hatchlings emerge.
Birds segregate themselves by habitat and food, but only so much segregation is possible and thus the number of species is limited. Studies of bird communities on islands show two main trends. The size of an island and the number of species found on it are positively correlated, and the further the island is from a large land mass, the smaller the number of species that occur there. The reason is that the number of species on islands is a balance between the number of new immigrant species arriving and the rate at which other species die out or leave. There is an alternative explanation. The number of species on an island is due to the richness of the habitat, which is related to the plant species on the island. Isolated patches of habitat, such as woods, ponds, or mountain tops, can be considered as ecological islands.
The peripheral nervous system is subdivided by function. Your sensory system detects stimuli from parts of the body, for example, texture or temperature when you touch something. The motor system controls movement of muscles, with control originating from the brain and spinal column. It is subdivided into somatic or voluntary muscle movement and autonomic or involuntary movement, such as those relating to heartbeat, digestion, and pupil dilation. The autonomic nervous system is further subdivided into sympathetic, commonly described as fight or flight fast response, and parasympathetic, a complementary system that encourages relaxation.
With renewable energy sources like wind and solar getting affordable day by day, the oil and gas industry is finding it difficult to maintain its resistance to transition to cleaner energy sources. The mounting pressure from the protesters and the investors have had some positive results, one of which is the declaration of an investment of multi-billion dollars in carbon capture technologies. But that is just a small step. The road ahead for the climate activists looks full of challenges, and unless we push the industry to take revolutionary steps to curb its carbon emissions, we should brace ourselves for the catastrophic consequences of climate change.
Healthy soils also store vast quantities of carbon, which helps to slow the pace of climate change. However, the degradation and erosion of soils has become a major global problem. threatening the sustainability of all the benefits that soils give to us in the environment. Soil erosion is a natural process, but inappropriate land management can trigger accelerated rates of erosion leading to severely detrimental effects. Bare soils, compacted soils or recently plowed or seeded land are left more vulnerable to erosion by intense or prolonged rainfall events.
The commercial side of backyard farms, such as selling the eggs that your chickens produce. Egg production slows down as your layers age, so breeding for egg production might be the way to go to avoid having to purchase new pullets every 3 or 4 years. The best way to do this is through crossbreeding. Purebred birds are generally bred for show competitions and have had their egg-laying abilities stifled through the breeding process. If you have good layers in your flock, you'll want to make sure they're first in line for breeding. It's highly likely that a good layer will pass this trait on to their offspring. Again, taking notes as you breed will ensure you're successful so you can know which of your chickens are producing the best layers and the most eggs over time.